What's going on, everybody? It's Frito back again for your Overwatch, here to give you a video to try to help you understand how to counter Widowmaker. Last time I made a video on how to maximize your own Widow play. This time I'm trying to give you the opposite of that on how to shut her down if she's starting to trouble you. Now, through this gameplay I will be using Widow, but in doing so I can show and pinpoint places where I could have been exploited if the other team knew what they were doing. Now, I must say that this video is recorded before the game went live, so some of these things might change, some of the character balancing might be different with a day one patch, all sorts of things might happen, but I look forward to giving you more higher level play once I start playing with my full team of friends again, because it did seem like there was some skill-based matchmaking in the game, and whenever I played solo, I got matched against a lot of teams that were really uncoordinated, and it was really easy for me to impose my will on them. So this gameplay, by virtue of that, is going to be very pub stompy. The number one rule: never go one at a time, as Zarya pathetically came out and realized. Now, she does have some abilities that are going to trouble Widowmaker, right? She can pop her shield and then be damage free for those few seconds, and if I do end up hitting her, I'm going to charge up her damage and she can give a shield to a teammate. But the worst thing you can do against the Widowmaker is to try to duel her when you're not Widowmaker or Hanzo. If you're one of those characters, or maybe even Pharah, if you're up in the sky and hit those shots, maybe then you can deal damage, but you have to understand that the best Widowmakers in the game will destroy each and every character if you're not careful. So the way you deal with that is not to peek around the corner with McCree because you think you're so darn good. Widow is more accurate. She has a scope that can put a pixel on your chest or head and take you down to no HP with the quickness. So it's always going to be at a disadvantage if you're going to be peeking her, even with a soldier, which view kicks her, or McCree, which you think does a big chunk of damage. Nobody's accurate enough to deal with her unless you are a Widow. Now, I made this video with kind of the assumption that being a strong Widow wasn't in your arsenal, because honestly, the number one thing that you want to think of, so I guess I kind of lied before, is that if you're a good Widow or you have a good Widow on your team, that's the way to shut her down. Then you don't really have to think beyond that, because your Widow will constantly be trying to challenge their Widow. But there also is ways to deal with her beyond that, and I think it really goes to show how the pros approach the game. And that number one thing is to ball up before you even engage. Now here they're starting to get the right idea, but I'm still able to tag McCree before he even gets behind the Reinhardt shield. Reinhardt jumps up, not shielding for some reason, leaving his squishy teammates to just be feasted upon by me and my fellow damage dealers. Tracer out in the open, challenging the angle for no reason. Constantly these players are not grouping up effectively. So which characters do you want to utilize in order to counter Widow? The number one character, and I think this is one of the biggest sleeper picks in the entire Overwatch cast, Winston. Nobody really likes to play Winston because he doesn't seem like a cool character, I think, or he doesn't really have much skill to him and finesse, but Winston's huge in the pro meta. Why? Because his ult gives him basically infinite HP. If you think that Lucio's sound barrier is a big HP boost, when Winston ults, he has 1,000 HP. He's literally King Kong, and it takes planes and stuff to take him down. On top of that, his barrier that he can set down is just as good as Reinhardt's shield. However, he also can leap at players. So he can set down that shield, set it and forget it, allow his DPS characters to establish from a choke point, so you can set it down, say like in the middle of the street that we keep fighting at over here, and then he can leap out in front and force a Widowmaker to go back. Also, in the pro meta, as it's shown us, and again, this might get nerfed at launch, who knows, it's best to even run 2 Winstons. Why? Because 2 Winstons in your face at the same time will do so much cleave damage. What cleave is it's a MOBA term, in that when a character attacks, it does a large radius. So Winston's gun actually auto-aims to everything in front of him, and it will just attack multiple things. Now, they do start to get that Winston over there on the left. They finally think about switching to him, but he's pushing up the left side. He's not actually putting down his barrier in front where his damage dealing teammates can be effective. You don't want to play solo with these tanks. You want to use them to set up an avenue for your skill shot characters to be able to peek. Now look here, the enemy team is starting to wise up. Get Tracers, get Winston, get Genji, get characters that can get in a Widowmaker's face and be able to counter the fact that she wants to play at range. Start to flush me out. It's much harder for me to establish and get any work done. Here, Winston decides to go into his Hulk smash mode, and I do a decent job at trying to fight him, but he just decides to go off and fight the point. Not even realizing the fact that I was down to 60 HP and he could have easily killed me in that 1v1. And they actually do the right thing and start running 2 Winstons, but their second one doesn't even drop a barrier on the main choke point of the map, and I dink him from a mile away. Winston, what are you doing? Imagine if I wasn't alive right now and able to kill Winston and then get another frag onto Hanzo. This push would have been completely different. Now I have my ultimate up and I'm able to go out in the center of the map and just zone everybody. I just feel bad about this. I think the police should be called with the amount of criminal activity I'm enacting on this other team right now. So let's recap. What needs to be done when the Widow is the problem? You start to look up to that kill feed and you notice Widow is killing everything. By the way, you're going to want to turn your kill feed on. It's in the options menu if you haven't already. It's very important. What do you want to do? Note that it has nothing to do with your damage dealers, because Widow will die to any damage dealer who's able to get on her. But if she's able to establish at range, no damage dealer will have a chance except for the opposing team's Widowmaker. So that means whatever tanks you're using, you must be utilizing their abilities to push your team into the choke points and to flush her out. It's easiest to do with Winston. Reinhardt might work as well, but note that Zarya and Roadhog don't do as good against her, so they don't really even count as tank breach heroes as far as I'm concerned. Lucio, I see this far too often, and it happened on this game as well. The enemy team's Lucio kept on his healing aura. So important that when you're breaching and running as a team, put on that speed aura, because not only is Lucio almost impossible to hit for me, in fact, I think Lucio's the hardest character for Widow to hit based upon the way he shucks and jives as he's on his roller skates. His head's always bobbing. It's really hard to land a shot on him. He's going to make all your other characters move faster and dodge. You got to understand, you Lucio players, sometimes that movement speed is more valuable to your team than the healing, because it'll make you more lethal because you can dodge bullets and keep your team alive more than your healing would, especially if they're already at full health. That should be obvious. This enemy team finally starts to get the point late into the game, but because I know there's only so many seconds, I'm able to go and farm their respawn in order to make their push much weaker than it was going to be. It's so important in this game to group up with your team, because if you have multiple characters attacking Widow at one time, it doesn't matter how good they are, because it's going to really stress their ability to hit shots. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe, thumbs it up, share with your friends, and I'll talk to you later.